Unlocking the secrets of an effective table tennis grip is pivotal for every player seeking to elevate their game. Your grip is not merely a way to hold the racket, it's the foundation of control, spin, and precision in every shot. From the basics of the shake hands or orthodox grip to advanced techniques, discover how small adjustments can yield significant improvements in your game. Let's dive deep into the world of table tennis grip and unleash its potential to transform your play. Introduction. We are going to conduct an in-depth investigation into the fundamental feature of grip in table tennis, with a particular emphasis on the shake hands grip, which is also referred to as the orthodox grip. Grip is one of the core aspects that we prioritize, and I cannot stress this point enough. We have a significant impact on how we feel and how we control the table tennis ball while we are playing because of the grip that we choose. To put it another way, the ideal positioning for the backhand side involves the forefinger running along the bottom part of the blade. Your thumb should be positioned so that it is above your middle finger on the forehand side, regardless of which hand you use most frequently. One of the most significant coaching points is as follows. While I am holding the racket in front of me, I should pay attention to the shoulder of the blade as well as the V shape that is made by my thumb and fingers. This is the most important point. In this particular stage, the major purpose is to create a very little space between the V-shaped blade and the shoulder of the blade for the blade. This gap, which has the appearance of being trivial, is in fact rather substantial. Why is this gap crucial? Without it, stress starts building up in the arm, hand, and wrist. You may find that your play becomes less fluid as a result of this tension, which also has an effect on the speed at which the racket head passes through the ball. Because of the absence of this microscopic gap, your shots may not be as smooth and rapid as they otherwise would be, which may result in a decrease in the total racket head speed while you are playing. Forehand. An illustration of the effect that the grip gap has on the forehand stroke is contained in the following little sample.
That was a very difficult pickup for Joe there, just setting really on the...
Even when there is no gap and the grip is rather tight, it is still possible to execute a forehand stroke, which can result in the generation of topspin or driving through the ball. On the other hand, if I make a conscious effort to relax my hold in order to make that marginal space, a transforming effect will occur. Everything seems looser and more relaxed as a consequence of the gap that formed as a result of the softening of the hold. Consequently, this modification has a major impact on the mechanics of the stroke. After the separation has been established, I am able to position the head of my racket in a somewhat lower position at the beginning of the stroke. This modification makes it possible to accelerate through the ball at a faster rate when the stroke is being performed. In addition, in order to provide additional clarification, the stroke has a propensity to be relatively strong, or more inclined towards hitting the ball when there is no space and the grip is solid. This is being said in order to provide further clarification. Additionally, by consciously creating a space and making the grip easier, it is analogous to envisioning a drawing pin or a laser beam protruding from the top of the blade. Due to the fact that the gap was purposefully constructed, this is the case. By utilizing this mental image, I am able to lower the head of my racket in a more effective manner and accelerate into the stroke in a more expedient manner. Backhand stroke. In the same way that these concepts are applicable to the forehand stroke, they are also applicable to the backhand stroke. It is helpful to develop a mental image of a laser beam or a drawing pin at the end of the backhand in order to have a better knowledge of the impact that changes in grip have on the mechanics of the stroke. This will allow you to have a better idea of the influence that they have. When there is no gap and the grip is a little bit tight, the tendency that tends to occur is to lift up and push through the stroke. This is the tendency that tends to transpire. In contrast, an exciting change takes place when the grip is purposely loosened and a gap is produced at the beginning of the stroke. This results in a shift that is both curious and interesting. By employing a softer grip and the space that arises from this, I am able to position the head of my racket into a somewhat lower position at the beginning of the stroke. This allows me to increase my potential for success. By making this relatively slight change, the angle is raised, and because the hands are softer, it makes it easier to accelerate through the ball and further into the ball. During my final stroke, I experienced a distinct click and snap, which signified the accomplishment of the perfect stroke execution. This occurred when I felt the perfect connection. The precise sound, the acceleration, and the cleanliness through the ball are all things that I find difficult to achieve when I am not maintaining the distance and when I am holding the racket too tightly. Table tennis does not conform to a single strategy that is applicable to all players, as evidenced by the demonstration of both backhands and forehands being done in two different approaches. This makes it abundantly evident that there is no single strategy that can be applied to all players. The relevance of a softer grip, on the other hand, and the difference between the two is plainly substantial when it comes to producing more acceleration, snap, energy, fluidity, rhythm, and control. Furthermore, the difference between the two is definitely considerable. In conclusion, this demonstrates the necessity of grip in terms of both feel and control when it comes to making the most of your game opportunities. Coaching aid. In order to reinforce the grip method, a useful coaching aid that can be employed is to mark a thin line on the back of the racket. This line can be used to help reinforce the technique. There is a basic visual indication that serves as a helpful reminder to keep in mind at the beginning of each rally. Looking down is the best way for players to determine whether or not they are able to see this line on the back of their racket. Players can use this line to judge whether or not they have maintained the appropriate distance in their grip for the duration of the game. This labeling, which is quite minor but has a major influence, encourages players to keep their grip relaxed and encourages them to do so. In situations where the game is very intense, it is natural for players to have a tendency to tighten their hold on their hands. Consequently, this takes place as a result of the contest becoming more competitive. Players, on the other hand, are able to achieve their full potential in terms of performance if they focus on sustaining this gap and, as a consequence, keep their grip more relaxed. Because of the existence of this space, players are able to keep their hands in a calm position even when they are under a great deal of psychological pressure. Over the course of my career, I have recommended this tactic to a significant number of players due to the fact that it is not just understated, but also significantly beneficial. Over the course of my considerable engagement in the sport, I have discovered that no player has ever expressed regret or found fault with the decision to keep this tiny gap in their grip. This is because it has been demonstrated to be continuously useful and supportive in improving overall performance and control. In table tennis, it is important to keep in mind that your grip is not just responsible for gripping the racket, it is also the channel through which your talents and methods are expressed on the table. You are not only able to improve how you hold the racket by perfecting your grip, but you are also able to improve your control, spin, and overall performance. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe the channel